Hello and happy, beautiful day to you. Welcome back. Today we have a really great question from a listener that brought up some interesting information and also really just highlights how tricky the mind can be and how counterintuitive it can be. And so I love the question just because it's perfect divine timing. And so that's where we're going today. Now, as we do, her question actually has to do with life and death and the information around dying, or also, of course, we're going to pivot it towards living and flourishing and loving life. And that's where we're going to pivot it towards. But her initial question was basically that she had heard me on a past podcast episode. She said, Brandy mentioned that she's never seen someone die who didn't want to. And then she wrote in a home email about, understanding it, and she can see that in some people. And so I want to expand on this topic and, of course, also pivot it towards how amazing and wonderful and incredible life is. And that's part of the insights, if you will. It has to do with exactly that, loving life, feeling great about life. And so in her question, she mentioned, that I said that I've never seen anybody die who didn't want to, or it's also, or that didn't feel like they deserved to for one reason or another. And so let me unpack that, because I mentioned in the very beginning, this can be really tricky. And for example, there are sometimes people who can feel as though life is too hard and it's too scary. And so on a subconscious level, they don't want to live life anymore. They're tired of doing life. And that's why I said we're going to make sure to pivot all of this towards how amazing life is. Life is wonderful. Life is great. And so as we talk about this topic, that's exactly what I want to do, is kind of weave into the awareness of the quote unquote negative, but also the awareness and the focus on the positive and living a full, happy, healthy, amazing life. And so that's it's going to be a little bit back and forth for this episode for that very reason. We want to keep it pivoted towards the positive. But one of the questions that she asked also in her email is, she said, basically this got me thinking about all of the people I know who have died young. And she said, how does that work? So basically she also has had friends who have died at a younger age. And she said, well, what could that be? Why is this? And that's what I want to unpack for a moment delicately, and then we'll also shift back towards the positive. Now, what can happen at a subconscious level is people can have information linked up that doesn't make logical sense. For example, people can have it linked up in their subconscious mind that the good people die young. I have worked with people who have had that very belief where, maybe I've seen them where they lose family members. They lose a good man and they go, it's always the best guys who die young, or something like that. So then they get it linked into their mind that good people die young. So what do you think their subconscious mind could want to do? Die at a young age. I've worked with people with that very programming where they wanted to die because they felt that it meant that they were a good person. That means which would then mean that if they continue to live it to an old age, they weren't a good person, which doesn't make any logical sense, but that got linked up in their mind. Or, you've heard my story. I had it linked up in my subconscious mind that it was the best thing you could do was die for others. Now, part of that programming came from a very young age, being raised with Lutheran and in the Catholic Church and all of that, where not to say it's anybody else's fault, but at a young mind, I got it linked up in my mind. Jesus died for other people's sins. So it was like the good thing to do to die for others. So it doesn't make logical sense, but that was my programming that got linked up. And then there's so many different patterns around that. And so self-sacrifice. And so there was a lot of linked in my mind. And I had to change it. But other times people will get it linked up where they say, life is so hard. Life is so scary. Life is so hard. It's so scary. And then there's a part of them that then feels like it would be better to just die, or they feel like everything is too hard to keep moving forward. Or, by the way, I mentioned that it's not just about getting it linked up in the mind, but it can also be deserving. So I've also seen people who were not in good integrity, where they were just taking from other people or being mean to other people. And so from that, it also resulted in them no longer living. And so I would say it's not just the wanting to die at a subconscious level, but there can be multiple different links in the subconscious mind. Now, another one that I've seen before is this, is people will have it linked up in the mind where they say something like this. They say something like, you're going to miss me when I'm gone. Because basically what happens is maybe they feel unloved or unappreciated. So maybe they feel like their kids aren't appreciating them. They're grown children, or their family members, or their husband or a wife, or whoever it is. And they feel like, you know what? You're going to miss me when I'm gone. What does that link up in their mind? That if they're gone, they're now going to be missed. They're now going to be loved. So it's not intentional, but then the brain goes, oh, well, that's how I get love? I just have to be gone. Notice, does not make logical sense. There was even a past podcast episode where I worked with a volunteer on that very thing who had that programming that said exactly that. Said, you're going to miss me when I'm gone, and continue to have all kinds of health issues, etc. So I've seen this so often. You may have heard that phrase before, but my point is exactly that. It's not that just somebody says, oh, I want to die, and then it's linked up in their mind. A lot of times it can be very tricky. Or I've seen people before where they lose a spouse or a loved one, a mother, a father, and they feel like, I just really want to connect with that person. And so there's a part of them that wants to die because they feel like it would help reunite that with them with that person. Now, it doesn't necessarily make logical sense. And these aren't necessarily conscious thoughts. This is just the links that can get stored in the subconscious mind. So, pivoting back to the positive, what does that mean about life? What that means about life is falling in love with life. What it means is loving life and wanting to live life and being excited to live life and feeling grateful to live this amazing, wonderful life. And it also means having love in this life and feeling loved and feeling connected and really celebrating that. Now, another thing, another insight to bring in is this, is that let's be real. Honestly, if you're here, our thoughts help create our lives, and they do. More than most people even realize. They do in so many ways. But if you're also here, you probably know that there are some complexities, and patterns breed more of the same. And so, the example you hear me use all the time is that, a woman may have an abusive father, unfortunately, and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. That pattern can continue. We know that. It's shown in psychology. And so we know that pattern, but more patterns of hurt, patterns of abandonment, patterns of rejection or upset or loss or frustration or failure or whatever it is. And so, again, pivoting towards the positive, what does that mean towards life? It means that, yes, we come into this life, and yes, we can have patterns, and we can go through hard spaces in life. Absolutely. But if we really just clean up our patterns and clean up what's going on, life can get better. I mean, there was a point where I didn't want to live anymore during my injury. I was a mess. And I really rewired my mind at a deep, deep, deep level, and it pivoted everything. Like, not only did I heal, but I fell in love with life. Life just feels so much better. Incredible. Grateful. Like, I'm so glad. I didn't want to go. Like, it just pivotal, life-changing. And I've seen people in those same places where they feel like life is hard or they're struggling. But it's not that life is hard. It's that patterns are hard. Meaning, if we have a pattern that is hard, that is hurt, that is painful, instead of saying life is hard, if we recognize the pattern and we really change it, life can get better. Life can get easier, better, more amazing. And so the pivot that I want to invite you to really bring in is the awareness, is this. I mean, if we bring it down to the very question that came in, is that falling in love with life, living it fully, feeling that genuinely is key. And if you notice your mind doing anything that says good people die young, or doing anything that says they're going to miss me when I'm gone, or I need to, or people will say, oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed I could just die. So they get embarrassed wanting to die. Like, oh my God, that happened. I just wanted to die when he said that. Eek. Right? People say that though. You may have heard somebody say that before also. What are they linking it in their mind is something happens and then they want to what? Die. Right? So I would say paying attention to these links, because saying it 10 times or 20 times may not impact, but it's about the feeling inside. So when the feeling gets linked up, and it's really, and it's at a deeper level, it can create that miswired mind programming that then goes in the wrong direction. And so the insight that you'll really want to think about is that making your life great, making it enjoyable, making it fun, making it full of love and happiness and joy is good for longevity, because it makes you want to be here. It makes you love your life and you want to be here more, and you want to live it to its fullest. And then simultaneously, if there are any of these miswired links in the subconscious mind, it would be really good to get rid of those as well. So food for thought on the insights of how tricky the mind can be at a subconscious level. So that's the question that came in. And by the way, if you are somebody who has a question that you want answered, send it in. I'll be happy to answer it. So when we start to really understand and you can see how the mind works, everything becomes more doable. You know, if you think about it for a moment, I mean, I struggled for years trying to figure out how to heal myself. But then once I started understanding the mind in a different way, not only did I heal myself, but then also then I started then showing others how to heal themselves, and even been able to, demonstrate results back to back to back under medical equipment so you can see it. My point is, the more you get it, the more you understand it, the more you know it, the more you see it, the easier it becomes, just like anything else. I mean, when I first started using a computer, I was not good at it. Now, of course, that was many years ago, but I was not good at a computer. I had to figure it out. And now, computer's very easy to use, right? And so like anything, the more you get good at your own mind and your subconscious mind and these patterns and self-healing, the easier it is. It's a skill. And so the more you learn it, the more you do it, the easier it is. And by the way, on that note, I always use Michael Jordan as an example, because meaning this, people will see me work with volunteers under medical equipment and show them how to release pain in minutes using their own mind. And I make it look very easy. But it's a skill. And the way to think about it is like Michael Jordan, the basketball player. He makes it look like anybody should be able to create a slam dunk from mid-court basketball or whatever you want to say. But I mean, he just makes it look so easy. And of course, he is so skilled. And so if you think about it in that way, you won't want to be frustrated with your mind. You'll want to instead just get good at it and understand that it is a skill. And the better you get, the more effective, the easier everything is. And so just food for thought. And that's today's quick IQ episode, quick questions episode. And as always, I want to ask you to please do take just a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know. Because the more that every single person in our world feels happy and healthy and loved and loving, the better this world is for all of us. And on that note, there is also a free training in the show notes. So if you're somebody who wants a deeper understanding about mind-body healing, you can click that link in the show notes. And I wish you an incredible rest of your day. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there.